Hello and welcome to NAIFA Live. I'm your host, Zach Hewells. We have a great speaker for you today, as always. But first, I would just like to give a special mention to those states and chapters that are holding in-person watch parties. You know, it really reminds us of how this program started just 3 short years ago. So we're really excited to have you today. Now, as always, the speaker will be made available in breakout sessions for a Q&A immediately following the presentation. So we hope to see you stick around for those as well. Now, as always, we would like to turn things over to NAIFA Tennessee's own John D. Richardson for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, John. And now I would like to launch a quick polling question. And I would like to make note that there will be another polling question during today's broadcast. These polling questions are for CE purposes, but not every state is approved for CE today. So please, no matter whether you are in a CE state or not, please answer this polling question so that it will leave your screen as soon as possible and you can get back to today's scheduled program. Now I'd like to move on to NAIFA CEO, Kevin Mayu, for your NAIFA announcements.
Hello, NAIFA Nation. It's I Love NAIFA Month. We take the month of February to celebrate all of the people, the programs, and the products that we love as part of our efforts to expand NAIFA's brand, drive membership, and to get more value out of your membership so you enjoy being part of the industry's premier professional association. Join us all month long as we take to social media. You can join us by posting what you love about NAIFA using the hashtag NAIFAProud. If you'd like to get a social media kit, we have those available as well. Simply go to members.naifa.org and you'll see the kit right there on the homepage. Please consider sending us a video to post about why you love NAIFA, and we will get your name and your company out there to better promote you as a trusted advisor. Just send us any pictures or videos to marketing@naifa.org. As you know, our members are our brand, and there's no such thing as too much promotion. One last thing on I Love NAIFA Month. As an added perk, we're giving you a $10 Starbucks gift card for every member that you refer and who joins NAIFA during the month of February. All of our prospects, all they need to do is to make sure that they give your name in the referred to field, or by calling one of our amazing member experience team members and have them join over the phone, making sure that they provide them with your name as the person that referred them. We'll send out gift cards in early March, and we'll also announce a grand prize winner for our top referrer. If you need more information, just contact your membership chair. Your chapter membership chair is there to help you as we continue to grow this great association. And we're always looking for more ways to expand your network of professionals to help you be more successful. February is also Ensure Your Love Month that NAIFA sponsors with our consumer-focused partner, Life Happens. Life Happens does great work, and you'll see throughout the entire month, we'll be forwarding and reposting the graphics that they provide that are really all there to help make sure that more Americans get the insurance that they need and that they deserve. You can also get involved in this effort. It's easy. You can help protect and increase consumer awareness about the critical need for more insurance. And in case you didn't know, Life Happens also gives NAIFA members a substantial discount for their Life Happens Pro platform that allows you to easily undertake marketing automation and simplify your prospect marketing. To celebrate Ensure Your Love Month, Life Happens has a series of planned events, which includes spotlighting Rich Terhune, a New York life agent from Connecticut and proud NAIFA member, who appears on the Real Life Stories webinar on February 3rd with his client. And then we're also participating actively in their various Twitter chats. One of them is on February 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Again, the hashtag Ensure Your Love chat is being used on that day. So please, again, if you consider posting things for Ensure Your Love Month, also include the hashtag NAIFAProud, because again, Life Happens is a great partner with NAIFA. And one last thing that we love, we have a great slate of upcoming events, in-person activities for you to take place in. The Congressional Conference is back as a live event in Washington, D.C., May 23rd and 24th, and registration is now open, and we have a number of stipends that are available. For information, go to conference.naifa.org. Our 7th annual DEI Symposium registration is also open. This will happen the day before the Congressional Conference, actually the morning of as it starts, May 23rd, and you can register for free at TDC, that's Talent Development Center, tdc.naifa.org/2022. And then our professional development event, Apex. Registration for that will be open soon, and early notices are available for anybody who signs up at apex.naifa.org. As for any of our key signature events, we have a number of ways that companies can get involved and can help sponsor the activity. So if you've got a company out there that might want to sponsor one of our activities, please let us know. We'll be glad to send a prospectus out and get them involved. And again, thank you. We love our members. We love all that you do. We love the fact that NAIFA members are out there representing Main Street USA, and we appreciate all the great work that you are doing to help increase the financial security for 90 million American families all across this great country. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker for today's NAIFA Live event, Ross Bernstein. His mission is to get us all thinking differently about how we can raise our game to the next level. Welcome, Ross.
Thank you so much. Welcome to my worldwide headquarters, or as my mother used to say, my basement. Hey, NAIFA Live, this is awesome. I'm really excited to be with you today. It's going to be an amazing event, and I'm so excited to be here. I've worked with several NAIFA chapters regionally around the country over the years, but this is my first foray onto the big stage, so I'm really excited to be here. So, as you heard, I'm a sports nut. I've been a working member of the media for the past 20 plus years, living up here in Minnesota, working very closely with my Vikings, my Twins, my Wild, my Wolves, my Gophers. I've had a lot of misery over the past 2 decades, if you know anything about my teams. But it's given me a very unique perspective, being in the locker room and the press box and the dugout and the sideline. I've been able to meet some pretty interesting folks along the way. Now, my program today, The Champions Code, it's based specifically on 2 best-selling series of books that I've written. This top series, Raising Stanley, Raising Lombardi. This was all about what it took to hoist that trophy. I interviewed over 1,000 professional athletes and coaches for this series who all had one thing in common. They were all champions. And much like Jim Collins did in his iconic book, Good to Great, I was looking for the same sorts of trends and metrics and patterns and analytics that were common among those teams, and the results were fascinating. Now, the bottom series is called The Code. Now, as you know, in sports, we've got rules. There's black and white rules that have been designed to keep the game fair and honest, but mixed in between these black and white rules are some shades of gray, some arbitrage. They're called unspoken, unwritten rules or codes. And if you break these codes, there's consequences. And this is what leads to fighting in hockey or getting drilled in baseball. So my program, it's about winning with integrity. You'll be tempted to take shortcuts along the way, and believe me, there's all sorts of sneaky, nefarious things athletes try to do to gain an edge, and we try and do them sometimes in business too, especially when times are tough. But being a champion, it's about doing the little things the right way. As I've learned, champions, the people who we like, the people who we trust, the people who just get it, they've got a very unique DNA. So I want to challenge you to think about your DNA. There was a big Harvard research study that came out years ago that talked about the #1 overall predictor of success across any line of business, and this is what it was. So I'd say you're not so much in the financial services business or the insurance business, you're really in the relationship business. But it's not just about the number of Facebook friends you have, it's really about the quality of those relationships. And that's what my program is really all about. So my question to you is, why would someone choose to do business with you? Or as a leader, why would they be influenced by you? Why would they do business with you? What's unique about you? What are the differentiators that really set you apart from everyone else? My mission today is to take a few things that aren't your business and make them your business. So I'm going to share with you 10 ideas to drive sales and generate momentum. Momentum is a living, breathing thing. We see it in sports, in business, in sales, in life. It's lightning in a bottle. And hopefully I'm going to share some ideas to challenge you to think a little bit differently. Sounds good? Let's dive in. #1, it all starts with passion. You can't fake passion. You either love what you do, you're either obsessed with what you do, or you don't. You're either real and authentic or fake and phony, and that was my guy, Kirby Puckett, Game 6, 1991 World Series. I was there, man. I don't know if any of you were there, but I'm still a little hungover from that night. It was amazing. And when I think of Kirby and I think of his DNA, one word comes to mind: passion. I mean, it's that smile on his face which pretty much says it all. You know the old cliche, find a job you love, you never work a day in your life? First one to the office, last one to leave. That was Kirby. He had this amazing attitude and it was infectious. I mean, everybody loved Kirby Puckett. He was magnetic. He could bend energy. You know, Kirby used to tell me that whenever he'd come to work at the old Metrodome in Minneapolis, whether it was a game or practice, he'd come to the players' entrance in the back of the stadium and they had these big doors. And Kirby called them stage doors because he really felt like every day when he came to work, he was going to be up on stage performing. And he had that performer's mentality. So he had to get his mind right. So every day he would literally step aside and he would check his ego at the door. He would close his eyes and whatever issues or injuries he was dealing with that day, whatever drama was going on with his wife and kids, he says, you know what? I need to leave all that over here. Because when I walk through these doors, I got to bring it. Doesn't matter if I'm sick or tired. My teammates are counting on me. This organization, these fans, they're counting on me. And when he walked in, it was like Hurricane Kirby to enter the room. I mean, that smile, it was unbelievable. He knew everyone's name, your wife's name, kid's name. He was always playing practical jokes, keeping everyone loosey-goosey, having fun. They called Kirby a gym rat because they just couldn't get rid of him. He'd come in his days off to hang out with the beer vendors, the parking guys, the ticket takers. He never thought he was better than anyone else. He just loved his job. If someone was having a bad day, Kirby's always the first guy to come over, pat you on the butt. Come on, man. Hang in there. They'd pay us to play baseball. Passion. Look, what are you really passionate about? See, here's the thing I've learned. If you're not really, truly, authentically passionate about what you do, then you need to think about what you do. Because people choose to do business with, to be influenced by people who genuinely really enjoy what they're doing. And this is why I love hanging around professional athletes. It's like the fountain of youth. These people love what they do. They do it for free. From the time they're little kids throwing a ball, high school, college, the minor leagues, to become a professional, an all-star, a Hall of Famer, to get to the tip of that pyramid and to stay there, it's about passion. Maybe you're really passionate knowing that you are changing people's financial futures, helping their kids go to college, helping them retire, keeping them safe with insurance. That's amazing. Thank you for what you do. But maybe that's just your day job and your real passion is hunting or fishing or golfing or traveling or spending time with your kids or grandkids. That's great. But that means you better be pretty darn good at your day job so you have enough time and money and freedom and the ability to say no to things you don't want to do. Otherwise, you're just pushing the rock up the hill. So today I want to challenge you to think a little bit differently about the intersection of passion and purpose. I want to challenge you to think a little bit differently. Number one, what is it that you're truly passionate about? Number two, be generous. Why? Because we like to do business with givers, not takers. That is Wayne Gretzky. Full disclosure, I had a full-blown stage 5 man crush on this guy as a kid. I'm not going to lie to you, it was awkward. I had posters of Wayne all over my bedroom walls. I've gotten to know him later in life. He couldn't be nicer. You know, as I learned, Wayne was the NHL's all-time leader in goals, and he was the all-time leader in assists. But he had twice as many assists than goals. I asked him about that one time, and he said, you know, a goal made one guy happy, but an assist made 2 guys happy. Wayne was a giver. I don't know if you can teach it, but I know we love to do business with giving people. My daughter scored her first hat trick in soccer a few summers ago, 3 goals. She also had an assist. And on the car ride home, I said, honey, I'm most proud of the assist. She said, why, Dad? I said, because great passes, they come straight from the heart. I mean, you have to want to sacrifice for the unknown, right? I mean, she could have scored that 4th goal. She was wide open right at the doorstep. But for some reason, at the last second, she turned 90 degrees. She passed across the goal line to her buddy, Carly. Carly hadn't scored in like 3 seasons. It was awesome. They fist bumped, they high-fived, they hugged it out. They talked about it afterwards over ice cream for about a half an hour. It was the greatest goal ever, as I learned, Dad. But that was a day I was really proud of my kid because I learned she was a giver. And I don't think you can teach it. I just think it's in your DNA to want to give and to serve and to help others. And that's what Wayne's DNA was all about. You see, Wayne wore the C on his sweater for the Edmonton Oilers. And that meant as the captain, it was his responsibility to lead by example. That meant being the first guy on the ice every practice, the last guy off the ice every practice. I asked Wayne one time about his legacy, how he wanted to be remembered when it was all said and done. He thought about it and he said, you know, I guess I just like to be remembered as the hardest worker in practice, the guy who helped his teammates the most. Wow. When your leader sets that kind of a tone, it's amazing how it just trickles down throughout the entire organization and filters back up. In the media, when teams win, everybody's fat and happy. It's awesome. But when teams lose and there's problems and there's drama, we want to talk to the leader and we want answers. And after every game, no matter how bad the loss, there was Wayne, front and center at the podium, answering everyone's questions, forthright, direct, fully accountable, no excuses. Wayne, what's the problem, man? The team's in a slump. We're not hitting our numbers. What's going on? You know what Wayne would say? Guys, you're right. I'm sorry. I need to work harder. I'm going to come in earlier Monday morning, try and get things figured out. Please be patient with us. But don't blame those guys. This is on me. Wayne would never throw his teammates under the bus, no matter what, even if it was their fault. You see, he understood it was his job, his purpose was to help make them better. So if the team wasn't playing well, that wasn't on them, that was on him. I mean, this guy actually enjoyed assists more than goals. Who does that? But he understood the power of the assist to help someone, to mentor someone. If one of his teammates was in a slump, he'd stay after practice, they'd shoot a couple hundred pucks together. If a guy was homesick, Wayne would call a players only meeting and take him out for beers. He understood it was his job to help build that man's confidence. Confidence, as Wayne learned, was the building block for momentum, and momentum was why Wayne's Edmonton Oilers won 4 straight Stanley Cups. So I guess I just want to challenge you to think about what your next great assist just might look like. Because I think at the end of the day, we choose to do business with givers, not takers. Number 2, be generous. Number 3, build trust. Why? Because people follow leaders who do what they say and say what they do. That's Pat Summitt. She's amazing. We lost her to Alzheimer's several years ago, and at the time of her passing, she was the winningest coach in the history of college basketball, men or women. And for Pat, it was all about trust. How many of you would say trust is an important part of what you do? We have a full-blown trust crisis in this country right now. Are you trustworthy? Can I trust you? Will you do what you say? Will you say what you do? Is it fake news? How do you build trust? We make hundreds of trust decisions every day subconsciously, from the food we eat to the roads we drive on to the buildings we work in. Well, for Pat, it was a process. When I asked Pat about her legacy, she said she didn't want to be remembered so much for being a great coach, but rather for being a great teacher. And that's how she was really able to connect with these young ladies, not teaching them how to be basketball players, but how to be better human beings. And as a result, they fostered trust. And man, did these kids work hard for Pat. She was incredible. And, the thing about Pat that was so interesting is that when I asked her about the secrets of her success, she said it wasn't always about getting the best players, it was about getting the right players. If it was just the best players, the New York Yankees would win it every year, right? Because they can afford the best players. But that's not how it works in sports. It's more about culture and chemistry. And so for Pat, it wasn't about getting that 5-star blue chip McDonald's All-American that every other coach wanted. For Pat, it was about getting the right kid for her system. But that meant she had to do her homework. She had to study them. So she recruited these kids not when they were juniors and seniors in high school like all the other coaches did, but when they were freshmen and sophomores. Now, this doubled the recruiting cycle. Man, getting in her car, getting on planes, being away from her own family, but she wanted to make sure she found the right kids for her system. So she'd study them. She'd watch all their videotape. She'd go to their schools unannounced, and she'd peek into classrooms and see which kids were sitting on the front row. Good listeners, paying attention, nice. She'd go to practice, and she'd just watch these kids from up in the top row of the bleachers, incognito, and just study things like body language. If they were, very coachable, good listeners, little things like that. But she wanted to get to know them. So she took the time to invest in and getting to know their parents and grandparents and teachers and coaches and counselors and friends. Friends? Yeah. People say people judge you by the friends you keep. Some of us might need new friends, but she wanted to get to know them. Which kids did drugs, which kids got good grades, which kids were winners in junior high and high school, which kids were popular, likable, team leaders, captains, which kids were coaches' kids. She loved coaches' kids. They had a totally different DNA. Which kids grew up on dairy farms like she did and shared her same incredible work ethic and spiritual values, things very important for her culture at the University of Tennessee. Which kids had respectful boyfriends, high maintenance parents. All these things mattered to Pat. And when those parents trusted her with their most prized possession, their child, to come to Knoxville, Tennessee, they were all in. These kids loved Pat. Pat Summitt inspired greatness. That was her superpower. She could see their potential and she'd pull it out of them. She'd coach them up. But Pat was old school, fire and brimstone. She used to lead through fear and intimidation, yelling and screaming. And that used to work pretty good, but eventually Pat got older and the kids got younger, so she had to change her tune. Start speaking a new language. social media, texting. You know, young people today, it's not about being part of an organization where they're going to get yelled and screamed at. It's more about being part of an organization where they feel valued and respected. And there's a pathway to success, micro promotions. It's more about tough love, praise. So Pat changed. You know, you'd still get that mile-long stare if you screwed up, but then always a big hug and some praise. Hey, I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job. Hey, I'm going to text you some YouTube videos, some things you can work on. Hey, I'll see you at the house on Friday for the barbecue. Pat changed and these kids changed and they found success and she was able to age right with them. And man, when these kids graduated, and they did because Pat promised their parents, I learned that many of them would get the Lady Vols tattoo on their body at the senior ceremony. Now, how many of you guys, by a show of hands, have your corporate logos tattooed in your bodies? I see a couple out there. I recently keynoted Anytime Fitness's annual conference. Really cool company with great momentum. They're the largest fitness chain on the planet now. Nearly 4,500 franchise locations. After my presentation, they had their 1,500th franchisee hop up on stage and get all tatted up with everyone out there hooting and hollering. And it wasn't one of those little tattoos back here, peekaboo, where no one could see it. It was a big sucker, a giant purple cartoon caricature of the Anytime Fitness Running Bandoo logo tattooed on their bicep. More than a third of their franchisee owner-operators have that tattoo as a reminder about the difference between a job and a career. One's transitional, one's forever. Do you know what I learned about Anytime Fitness franchisees? I learned that they don't run gyms, and I learned that they sure as heck don't sell health club memberships. You know what they do? They help to change people's lives. What do? Sell life insurance, annuities, financial advising tips, or do you help to change people's lives? One's a job, one's a career, but I'm here to challenge you to think differently about what it's really going to take to become the trusted advisor. We all talk about what that means, but how are you building trust? How are you communicating? There's so much we can learn from sports that applies to business. As you think about your book of business, are you recruiting the right people or is it the best people? Again, so much I want to challenge you to think about, but hopefully it'll make a difference as you grow your business. Number 4, try to find your way. Why? Because there's no one right way to run your business. Hey, I run my business from my basement. There's no one right way. I'm a solopreneur like many of you, but I love studying the outliers, the weirdos who do it really unique, and that's what it's all about, right? To be a top producer, you just got to do things differently. To be a core of the table, a top of the table, there's no one right way to get there, but I love studying the weirdos, the square pegs in the round hole, as Steve Jobs called them. That's one of my faves, John Gallardi. I miss him. We lost him last year. He was such a sweet man, a dear friend of mine, and John was a fascinating guy. He was the head coach of a little Division III football program called St. John's University here in Minnesota. Tiny little town a couple hours northwest of the Twin Cities called Collegeville, Minnesota. A couple thousand people live there, and there's this little college, all boys, all men, and it's run by Benedictine monks. And John came in after World War II and said, we should do a football program. And they said, okay, we don't know anything about football, but you can run it, you can start it. Well, he didn't know a lot about football, but he knew what he didn't like. So he created a program called Winning with No. And it's the St. John's way. You've all got a way. There's a NAIFA way. Your company has a way. And I'm going to share with you the St. John's way because it's pretty fascinating, but it's all about no. It's all about eliminating the things they didn't want to do. So I'm going to share it with you. No scholarships, no recruiting, no freshman program, no junior varsity program. Let me just stop right there. That means everyone who tried out for the team, regardless of their age, shape, girth, ability, athletic talent, they were on the varsity. He didn't recruit anyone. He didn't cut anyone. Whoever showed up, that's who he worked with. No insisting on being called coach. Everyone called him John. No captains. All the seniors shared that role. No rules except the golden rule. Don't be a jerk. No staff meetings, no player meetings, no watching film, no dress code, no special diet, no training table, no special dormitory. All the kids ate, lived, and slept with all the other kids. Nothing fancy like these big universities today. No signs in the dressing room, no slogans, no superstitions. There's no playbook, no statistics posted, no newspaper clipping posted, no Hall of Fame, no counting individual tackles or acknowledging individual accolades, no Gatorade celebrations, no trash talking tolerated, no cheap shots or foul play tolerated, no cheerleaders. In practice, no conditioning, no weightlifting, no long practices, about 45 minutes, no tackle dummies, no tackling in practice, very important, no tackling in practice, no agility drills, no lengthy calisthenics, no running laps, no wind sprints, no special staff uniforms, no clipboards, no whistles, no practicing on Sunday or Monday. Kids need some time off. No yelling or screaming at the players. No practicing in the rain, extreme heat, if it's too cold, or if there's too many mosquitoes. We have a lot of mosquitoes up here in Minnesota. There's no water or rest denied if a player wants it, and there's no off-seasons captains practices. Whew. How many college football fans out there? Yeah, this is pretty much counterintuitive to every single program on the planet. Agreed? The results. No player had ever not graduated. No discipline problems. No graduating class never had at least one or two prospective pro football players. Every graduating class had several players go on to attend graduate law and or medical school. No Division III college ever had larger crowd support. People drove for miles and hours to come watch those Johnnies. They sold out every game. They packed the stands. No school ever had fewer injuries. No tackling in practice. But most importantly, no coach in the history of college football has ever won more games than John Gallardi. That's the winningest coach ever, more than Bear Bryant, Pop Warner, Amos Alonzo Stagg, Eddie Robinson, you name it. And they did it with a crazy archaic system no one thought would work. But my point is, today it's about you finding your way, to have the confidence to say, you know what, I can do it this way. Maybe I don't need a big staff like those guys. Maybe I don't need to do all these things. Maybe I can invest in this technology. It's okay. There's different ways of communicating, building relationships. And I'm here to challenge you to think a little bit differently. Number 5, be compassionate. Why? Because kindness and empathy, they're more important now, maybe than ever. Big college softball playoff game a few years ago between Western Oregon and Central Washington. In the middle is Sarah Tukulski. Late in the game, the senior right fielder stepped up and boom, she hit her first ever career home run. She was so excited. She took off for first base. Runners in second and third came around to score. The dugout emptied. All of her teammates were jumping up and down at home plate, celebrating. They couldn't wait for her to get around the bases. They just took the lead in this big playoff game against her arch rival. Sarah was so excited. She ran right past first base. Now, the first base coach saw this and said, whoa, Sarah, turn around, quick, come back. You missed the base. And as she turned to come back, she blew her knee out and it was bad. ACL, MCL, it was a train wreck. She was laying there in a heap sobbing. She couldn't move. Her coach came running out. We're going to pinch run for her. And the umpire said, I'm sorry, it's against the rules. She'll be credited for a 2-run single. Well, can her teammates help her? Sorry, it's against the rules. And as she was laying there crying, the 2 team captains for Central Washington came out, Liz Wallace and Mallory Holtman, and they said, hey, anything in the rules that says we can't help her. They knew her career was over. And the umpire said, no. So they picked her up and they walked her over to second base and they lowered her down. They took her to third so she could touch the bag and they brought her home so she could earn that home run with dignity, even if it meant losing by 1, which they did. I think at the end of the day, we choose to do business with people who we like, people who we trust, people who just get it. In my world, they're called champions. And champions are all about kindness and empathy and compassion. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we're all in the same boat. If you're on this call, you're in a really good boat. Some people don't have a boat. Your industry kicked butt during the pandemic. Other industries, not so much. Now is not the time to gloat or be cocky. Now is the time to say, hey, how can I help people, especially those less fortunate, those who struggle, help them. And you know what? When they come back up, I got a feeling they remember you. Number 5, be compassionate. Number 6, build your relationships through philanthropy. I'm going to pivot now. The first half of my program was kind of about the why. The second part's a little bit more about the how. Why? Well, giving back isn't just good purpose, it's good business. But you got to make it personal to really connect. Now, NAIFA is a very philanthropic organization, a big giving program. Many of the people on this call give, but how do you give personally? Are you involved in a charity, kids, school, church? Again, this is a big differentiator for me in how I run my business. I'm involved with a lot of charities, but one in particular, and I want to share the genesis about how it's a story about how my biggest failure became my biggest success, and it led to creating a charitable foundation that's really, really near and dear to me. But I'm going to do it by sharing a story. And I think that's how you connect and build relationships. We learned that from Walt Disney as kids. Mom, Dad, read me that book again. Let's watch that movie again. So I'm going to share this story, and I want you to think about your story and about your website and about your demo video and about why someone would want to give all their money to you. How are they going to build trust with you and like you and want to do business with you? You've got to be able to craft stories to suck people in. And then you've got to be able to give back so that people know that you're authentic. So I'm going to share my story. It's a fascinating story. It begins in the booming metropolis of Fairmont, Minnesota, a tiny town in the middle of nowhere in southern Minnesota, about 6 miles from the Iowa border, where I grew up as a huge sports fan. I love sports. It's always been my passion, as you can see. The problem was I just wasn't very good at sports. In the middle is my number 10 purple Vikings Fran Tarkenton jersey. It literally turned brown because I slept in it every night. Notice my fly is down there too. Nice. Thanks, Mom. But my whole world changed in 1980 when, as a 10-year-old kid, I watched The Miracle on Ice. This rocked my world. This fiery coach from Minnesota, Herb Brooks, led a bunch of college kids past the Soviet Union, the greatest hockey team ever assembled, a team that lost a game in 20 years. It was such a big deal, they called it a Miracle on Ice. I said, Mom, Dad, I want to play hockey. Now you got to understand something about Southern Minnesota. This is wrestling country, basketball country. This isn't like northern Minnesota by Canada where they literally pull the kids out of the wombs by their skate blades. This is different, okay? But I begged my parents to please let me go to the Herb Brooks hockey camp. He had a hockey camp that year. They said, fine, you could go. So I went, and I was what you call an ankle bender. If there's any hockey moms out there, I was one of those guys who could barely stand up. Woo! And I remember one day in practice, Herbie came up to me. He was larger than life, and he put his arm around me, and he said, way to go, Ross. He knew my name because it was written with tape on my head. And he actually gave me an award. Now, I don't know if you guys give out awards in your organizations. If you do, congratulations. But in hockey, they give out this award to the guy who sucks the most. And that was me, most improved. In Southern Minnesota hockey, it's old school. We weren't like you rich kids from Chicago with your fancy Zambonis, okay? Where I grew up, we had shovels. And we didn't have fancy buses driving us around from game to game. All the farm kids had vans and pickup trucks. You'd have the chain-smoking parents up front and the nuclear hockey equipment smell in the back. We'd pile in. And as you're about to see, as a freshman in high school, I became the starting left defenseman for the mighty Fairmont Cardinal / Domino's Pizza hockey team. That's right. We were pretty badass. What you can't see back there is I had a sweet mullet going on back there. That's a moulet for any of you French Canadians tuning in. But you know, that's how it is in a small town. I got to play 3 varsity sports as a freshman, not because I was any good, but we literally needed warm bodies. Well, I had a choice to make as a senior in high school. Small college football, or I could be a Golden Gopher. And in Minnesota, this is our thing. Everybody dreams of playing hockey at the University of Minnesota. I mean, it's like Texas football, Indiana basketball, pick your cliche, but it's so damn cold up here. This is all we got. And our teams, they're amazing. In the late 80s, they were a powerhouse. All these kids got drafted. They played professionally. I mean, my family bled maroon and gold. Grandma and grandpa were Gophers. Mom and dad were Gophers. My big brothers were Gophers. I was a Gopher. I got season tickets. It was incredible. Guess what? Winter semester rolls around. Turns out they got a class you can take. It's called Introduction to Ice Hockey 101. This is one of those 1-credit FIED courses the players taught, allegedly, to get their scholarships, the underwater basket weaving class. Well, I took this class, and for 3 days a week, for 1 hour, I got to skate in Mariucci Arena with actual real-life Gopher hockey players. It was unbelievable. Well, I wound up becoming friends with a bunch of guys in the team. I'd bring them over to my fraternity parties. We'd drink beer, allegedly. And after a while, I got to know these guys, and they said, you know, Ross, you're not that bad of a hockey player. Why don't you try out for the team? Why don't you walk on to the varsity? I said, come on, I'm from Fairmont. They said, it doesn't matter. We like you. We want to hang with you. You make us laugh. And this is where I learned about the most powerful soft skill of them all, likability. Really, you guys want to hang with me? Yeah, go for it. We'll pass you the puck. So I took this insane leap of faith and I walked on to play hockey at the University of Minnesota. It was the thrill of a lifetime. I was a pylon out there, but I was out there. And sure enough, my new buddies, they were passing me the puck. I was scoring goals. We were building my confidence. After a while, I thought, you know what? Maybe I am going to play hockey at the University of Minnesota. But I had to do something to make a statement, something for the coaches to notice me and put me in the lineup. And one day, an opportunity presented itself when our team captain, Todd Richards, All-American defenseman, future NHL star, future NHL coach, came down one-on-one. I said, this is it. This is my moment. I said, I'm going to take out our star player in front of the coaches. They're going to have to put me in the lineup, right? I mean, it's like the first day of prison. You shank the biggest dude in the yard on day one and hope that word gets out. You're going to have a very uncomfortable evening. I saw that in the movie. So Richards, he sees me coming. I'm coming right at him like a freight train, but it's like he doesn't even brace himself. I'm like, okay, dude, this is going to hurt. Now, Richards, he's wearing this really weird jersey this particular practice. I'd never seen anything like it before. It was all white with the big red cross on the front and back. That could only mean one thing, bullseye. I lined up the crosshairs and wham, I sent him flying. It was the greatest check of my life right in front of the coaches. Woo-hoo! I'm going in. Oh, it's fuzzy from here. But I remember flying through the air backwards, and when I landed back there and came to from literally being knocked unconscious, this explains the Dane Bramage, I awoke to one of our assistant coaches, a former goon in the National Hockey League, a professional fighter, with one hand around my neck, the other in a fist, ragdolling me, screaming, "You idiot! What are you doing? Our team captain is wearing a Red Cross jersey today. That means he's injured." Oh. "I'm sorry, coach. I had the pizza jersey. I didn't get the memo." Well, Coach Hoog called me into his office after practice. "Kid, this is the end of the line. I got to let you go." And that was the day my dream of hoisting the Stanley Cup died. I was devastated. But it turned out, unbeknownst to me, there was another job opening on the team. Now, it wasn't quite as sexy as All-American defenseman, my first choice, but it was close. Team mascot, Goldie the Gopher. Now, there were two criteria for the job. You had to be a decent skater and a moron. I apparently fit on both accounts and became a giant, smelly rodent. That's actually me inside there. I don't think they cleaned that costume since the Grover Cleveland administration. You can actually see there's my head right there. Kind of cool. But I made lemonade out of lemons. I got to become a cheerleader, which was pretty awesome. I was the only dude in that squad. And I still got to practice with the team, hang with the guys, and I had a blast being a mischievous mascot. And I got into a lot of trouble. In fact, I got into so much trouble that after a game one night, as a senior, a publisher approached me and he said, "Kid, we've been watching you. We'd like to write a book about all the trouble you've gotten into. Apparently, it's not appropriate to throw Kraft cheese singles at the Wisconsin band." Who knew? Cheeseheads, if you throw them just right, they stick, but man, you get in a lot of trouble. I don't recommend it. Anyways, I said, "Look, I'm flattered, but other than my grandmother, who's going to want to read this book?" But then it kind of spawned the idea, wait, what if I wrote a book about the history of Gopher hockey from Goldie the Gopher's point of view? That's not bad. So I called my mom and my dad and I said, "Mom, Dad, I finally figured out what I want to do with my life. About my graduate school money, I want to use that money to write and publish a book about the history of Gopher hockey from Goldie the Gopher's point of view." I remember the words failure, disappointment, a lot of four-letter words. This conversation did not go well. See, my two big brothers had already graduated and gone on to get their Ivy League MBAs, and this is what they wanted me to do. But I said, "Look, I don't want to be in school anymore. I want to work in sports. That's my passion. That's what I want to do." I remember my dad saying, "You know what? Fine, you can have your money, but you better not come crawling back to me when it's all gone." I said, "Great, I'll take it." So I dove in and I started writing this book. Now, trust me when I tell you, as a 21-year-old college senior, I knew absolutely nothing about writing books or publishing books, editing books, reading books. If you saw my grades, you know I'm not kidding, but this is my destiny. 5 days into my book project, serendipitously out of the blue, I got a phone call that changed my life from Herb Brooks, my hero, the coach of the 80 Olympic hockey team who's now coaching in the National Hockey League. "Ross, I heard about your book. I want in. I'll be home in a few weeks. Let's get together. I want to help you out." Wow. I didn't know what to expect, but we got together and it was life-changing. Herb explained to me how important this book was going to be. Herb explained to me that his passion was to grow the game and get more kids playing hockey in southern Minnesota and Iowa and Illinois and Texas and Florida and California. He told me that years earlier, he drove 3.5 hours through a blizzard all the way to Fairmont, my hometown, to start a youth hockey program. He said, "Ross, if you really believe in something, you got to get in your car. You got to get in your plane and you got to go meet people face to face and they got to see and feel your passion. And then you have to be able to explain the differentiator about why your product is better than the other guy's product. Go down there and tell those parents, your kids should be playing basketball. They should be playing hockey. Help them. Be a cheerleader. Encourage them." He said, "Ross, the wider we build the base of this pyramid, the higher we can go, man." And he helped me. He called all these famous hockey players. He said, "Get together with my buddy Ross. He's going to write this book. It'll be good for hockey." And lo and behold, as a senior in college, I wrote my first book, Gopher Hockey by the Hockey Gopher. It became a cult bestseller and I was off to the races, doing book signings, the Mall of America, TV interviews, radio interviews. Companies would see me on TV and call and say, "Hey, we saw you on TV. Come talk to our company. We'll pay you." Whoa, how cool is that? I remember after about the third printing, I got a phone call from my old man. It was a tough call for him to make, but he said, "Hey, I'm proud of you. Everybody thought you were going to fail, myself included." But then he told me something I never forgot. He said, "Look, I know you want to work in sports, kiddo. That's great, but there's no jobs in sports. You know, you're not a former athlete. You're not the son of the owner of a team. And, you know, you got lucky with this first book, but these books have a shelf life of about 1 year. You have to reinvent yourself every year, and that's going to be really hard." But he said, this is really what you want to do. If this is your passion, he said, follow your dream and I'll support you. But only if you follow your dream. He said, follow your dream. Otherwise, you're going to spend the rest of your damn life working for somebody else who did. Nearly 50 sports books later, I somehow made a career out of it. But along the way, I got to become good friends with Herb Brooks. In fact, such good friends that years later, Herb called me one day and said, Ross, I'm ready to write that book. And guess what? You're going to write it. Wow, like the voice of God calling me. I got to spend almost a year working on this book with my hero, my mentor. Flash forward to the weekend of August 11, 2003, Herb and I are golfing in a charity golf tournament in northern Minnesota, raising money for a great cause. Herb had to leave early that day, about the 11th hole. He had a speaking engagement in Chicago with a big pharmaceutical company. We said our goodbyes. I was excited. The book was almost done. I was going to be out in the circuit with Herb Brooks. It was going to be a game changer for my business, my career. I remember settling in for that long ride home. I turned on the radio and I heard the news. Herb didn't make it. He was killed in a car accident driving home that day. If you're a hockey fan, you remember where you were at that moment. I remember pulling over and crying and thinking, what can I do? Then I listened on the radio as I drove home and people called in and talked about hockey and sports and how it had been woven throughout the fabric of their communities and how it had changed their lives and enhanced relationships with their kids. And eventually I came upon the crash site where I saw that on the side of the road, a cross with a gopher hat on top, and I kind of lost it and thought, what can I do? So I decided to turn our book into a memorial and help to create the Herb Brooks Foundation with his family. And now I serve as the president of this organization, and I donate proceeds to my books and speeches to this wonderful cause. Our mission, we're looking for the next Gretzky. We don't know who she is. She could be Hmong, Korean, Somali. We don't care, but we're keeping Herbie's legacy alive by growing the game and getting more kids interested in sports. We have a Rink Rats program where we give disadvantaged kids, minority kids, opportunities to play sports. Kids with special needs, Down syndrome, autism, kids whose parents are overseas in the military helping us out. We take care of them. The women's Olympic team trains at our rink we own here in Minneapolis, and they won a gold medal in Pyeongchang in the last Olympics, and they're going to be winning another one here in Beijing really soon. And we get rock stars from the National Hockey League come to our golf tournament. We've raised millions to help kids play sports. Look, I don't care if you know the difference between a blue line or a clothesline. What you got to know about me is I'm very passionate about getting kids interested in playing sports. What I've learned is that when I connect with other people and they like sports and they got kids, we connect. Turns out sports for me is a universal language. It's that ultimate common icebreaker thing. Whether I'm talking rugby in New Zealand, cricket in South Africa, people speak sports. So imagine if you started thinking differently about philanthropy, going on the LinkedIn profiles of some of your best customers or prospects or future hires and figuring out what they're super passionate about. And then you got involved, not just with your money, that's easy, but your time. This is how relationships become very sticky. Now I'm involved in a whole bunch of different charities. And this is how I've done thousands of TV and radio interviews over my career, and I've never paid for one of them. Why? Because I'm never trying to sell a book. I'm trying to sell the outcome of the book. What are you selling? Life insurance? No one wants it, but they all need it. Focus on the outcome. That's what I focused on. I'm not trying to sell a book, I'm trying to raise money for pediatric cancer. Not trying to sell a book, we're trying to raise money for Alzheimer's and dementia. There's an old saying, people don't want to be sold, but they sure love to buy, especially from people who share their values. I think great companies are known for giving. One of my favorite companies is a company here in Minneapolis called Starkey. It's a $6 billion medical device company. They make hearing aids, but they're not known for their hearing aids. They're known for their philanthropy. It's a fascinating organization. See their founders, Bill and Tawny Austin, these amazing humans. Their passion is to watch people hear for the first time. So they have these mission trips, and they get rock stars, politicians, professional athletes go to Haiti, Ghana, Liberia, and they give away hearing aids. And their social media is just full of these wonderful videos of kids hearing their parents speak for the first time. It's amazing. My wife and I go to their gala here in St. Paul, So the World May Hear gala. And every year at their gala, they raise at least $10 million. Amazing. It's a red carpet A-list celebrity event. People pay their own way. They want to be a part of it because they just feel like they're doing such good. I get to keynote their annual expo every other year, but I'm what they call a mini keynote. You see, I'm in between President Bush and President Clinton. Talk about bipartisanship. Turns out everyone can agree on hearing health. In a massively commoditized business of hearing aids, Starkey has completely differentiated themselves and quite frankly kicked butt through their philanthropy. They are not the cheapest. In fact, their products are the most expensive, but people want to do business with them because they have amazing technology, amazing innovation, but most importantly, they give back, they serve their communities. So I want to challenge you to think about how you're serving your communities, your customers. It's a fascinating concept, but there's opportunities every day, whether it's on social media or maybe just getting creative. I was speaking at a top producer financial services conference in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, pre-pandemic. And I brought 100 copies of my books to give away. I love giving them away. But everyone had a good year. So I thought, let's do something creative. So I talked to the hotel concierge. He told me about Maria. She has an orphanage there. We got in the car, picked her up, brought her back. She gave a little 2-minute talk. I said, guys, if you want a book, take a book. It's my gift. But if you want to buy a book, we'll give all the money to Maria today. We raised more than 10 grand for Maria that morning. Now, that's not a lot of money to you and I, but for Maria, that'll make a difference. So tweet that, Facebook that, TikTok that. No one freaking cares what you had for breakfast. Today, I'm here to challenge you about how you give back, why you give back, who you give back to. Have you figured out what causes your clients and prospects are super passionate about? Philanthropy is a game changer. Get involved, get on the board, start doing things differently. This is how you grow relationships and growing your book of business. I'm here to challenge you to think a little bit differently. Number 7, take risks. Why? Because now is the time you got to try some new things, change it up, even if that means failing every once in a while. Now, I am a die-hard Minnesota Vikings fan. I love the Vikings. I bleed purple, and I would please like one Super Bowl before I die. Is that too much to ask? We've already lost 4. I'm not getting any younger, and I need you to know how much I hate the Green Bay Packers. These are awful people. They've been causing me pain and suffering and misery for decades. And when they decided several years ago they were going to send their guy, Brent Favre, to my Minnesota Vikings, after 16 seasons with these filthy cheeseheads, I got to tell you, it felt very dirty rooting for him. He took a risk, so I took a risk. And I wrote a book about my true bipolar feelings called I Love Brett Favre. I hate Brett Favre. I love Brett Favre. No, I didn't know if I was going to be rich or in prison writing this book, but guess what? When the announcers on Monday Night Football started flipping my book in front of 40 million people, it went viral. Look at that, Mom. Super Target bestseller end cap. There I am next to Rachel Ray, Dan Brown, Nelson DeMille, Joel Osteen. That's 2 facings across from toothpaste. You can't buy that real estate. I built a brand. I thought, how was I ever going to top that? Well, it's funny you should ask, because the next year I got real cocky. I took a big risk, and I wrote that. And it was a disaster. I mean, the hubris of me thinking after all these sports books, I could write a book about politics. Well, get this. Walmart thought it was a clever idea. They called and said, we'd like to put this at the cash registers of all of our stores coast to coast for about 6 months leading up to the election, maybe longer. What do you think? I said, I'd like to buy a second home in Tahiti. This is going to work out great. But then Sarah decided, maybe I won't run for president after all. And that's the day I got a phone call personally from the senior VP of sales of Walmart to tell me I could cancel the entire order. I'd already printed the entire order, and trust me when I tell you that is literally a quadruple dumpster fire you don't want to see. But you know what I learned? I learned it's okay to fail. It's true. Go read the bio of every Fortune 500 CEO out there. Know what you're going to read? Failure, 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 success. Turns out we fail your way to the top. I mean, that's just how it is, right? Look at all the opportunities that are out there right now. Look at everything that happened. All the opportunities after World War II and the Great Depression and 9/11 and the Great Recession of 2009 and the pandemic of 2021. Now is the time to take some risks. Maybe it's a new piece of technology, fintech. Maybe it's hiring someone. Maybe it's firing someone, just working in your basement like me. I don't know, but you know what? I'm here to challenge you to think a little bit differently. Number 8, be willing to adapt and change, right? Failing, part of it, why? We're all gonna have circumstances beyond our control. Hey, welcome to my basement. That's me in my worldwide headquarters. Look, man, when this pandemic hit, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I keynote 125 conferences a year. My calendar went blank. So after a 2-week pity party of doing nothing but eating Cheetos, I thought, you know what? I better buy this thing called Zoom. And thank God for Zoom. A lot of my colleagues went broke during the pandemic. There were no conferences. I did 150 virtual keynotes, not a webinar where you see my fat head or my fat slides, a virtual keynote where I can move around and do this. See, I run my slides over here. What are you doing? All this stuff in the background, it's interesting. It's about me. It's what I'm passionate about. I see so many people with a white wall, a fern, and an exit sign. Good God, man. I'm assuming you've got sweatpants and Crocs down here too. I mean, you've given up. You got to make this interesting. Zoom's not going anywhere. And I know it's hard as advisors to not meet face-to-face, but people realize I don't need to meet face-to-face. I meet with my advisor on Zoom now. It works. So you got to roll with it, but make it interesting. But it wasn't my first pivot. My first pivot was realizing books were going to die. I mean, Borders is gone. Walden Books is gone. B. Dalton's is gone. Crown Books is gone. Barnes & Noble hanging on by a thread. But I assure you, they sell more caramel macchiatos, board games, tchotchkes, greeting cards, and music than they do books. And now they got these hideous, disgusting things called ebooks. Kindles, Nooks, they're killing me, man. I mean, I write $25 books, but the e-version is $7. I got to do the same amount of work. I got to write it, edit it, publish it, market it, promote it. But I only make a fraction of the profit. Is that fair? No, but that's my reality. So I shifted. Now books are just loss leaders. I call it currency. And I just give them away. They lead to more speaking engagements. But it wasn't my first shift. Again, I've been shifting all the time. Books became movies. A book just can't be a book anymore. I've had to transform my content, right? Monetize it differently. We've done a few documentary projects, a screenplay, and then a couple years ago, we turned my book on hockey fighting into a movie, a feature film with an Academy Award winning director. How cool is that? I'm only in the movie for like 5 minutes, so if you watch, don't blink. But a book became a movie, and then I realized that a book can become a speech. Here's my newest book on leadership with my man crush Wayne Gretzky on the cover. Now, if a client likes me, they can bring me back for another speech. How cool is that? But I think great companies are always changing. They're looking into their crystal ball, and I want you to look into yours. I told you at the beginning, I wanted to take a few things that aren't your business and make them your business. So I work a lot in the hospitality space. I keynote some of the biggest hotel conferences in the world. And they looked into their crystal ball 5-10 years ago, and they said, wow, our future customers, these millennials, Gen Zs, they like Airbnb. And it's a great product, but if you're in the hotel business, that's a problem. So there's a whole new category they've created, not in the future, but they exist right now, called millennial hotels. And I want to take you inside to show you how they've changed. And it starts up here where we see the buildings. It's all about sustainability. They're very green. There's a rain catchment system. They're very minimal. There's an LGBTQ hiring component. Diversity is very important to young people. They've got a geothermal heat pump, wind, solar. Again, recycled building product. It's all about sustainability because they've listened to their customers, and this is what they want. When you check in, there's no desk. Apparently, desks are quite scary for young people in the future. There's Janice with her orange Star Trek smock of the future checking you in on her iPad, boop, 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 sending your room key to your freaking phone. Why? Because young people love technology, and that's what these hotels are all about. It's about this shared experience around technology, right? I mean, come on in. These things are G5. They're wired up. I mean, they got TVs and monitors everywhere. Go on around to the lobby. This side's old school. Sega Genesis, Atari, ping pong, foosball. This side's new school. Drone racing, esports, social media. Are you hungry? Of course. All the food, locally sourced, organically grown. The cows and pigs are treated very humanely, very important to young people. And a portion of the proceeds benefits their charitable foundation. Vegan, non-GMO, non-dairy, no problem. But young people don't have a lot of money. So they have a grab and go section here. Everything is about $1 or $2. But if you're hungry later that night, you can text the robo butler to drive it up to your room. Pretty cool. Hey, do you want some craft beer? It's local. Maybe some honey from the apiary on the roof. It's local, of course. And later we're going to be spinning vinyl in the lobby until the band comes. They're local. Oh, all the artwork in the lobby, it's for sale. It's local, on consignment. Did you want a scooter? Of course, it's part of the sharing economy. And hey, we can go to the roof later. It's very Instagrammable, a very important term, or we can shoot a TikTok up there, right by the pool. And young people like food trucks. So they put a freaking food truck on the roof. And I'm sure you brought your dog because young people don't have children. They have animals. They have a full service dog room service menu. How crazy is that? But this isn't the future. This is happening. And my question to you is, how are these young people going to buy your products and services in 5-10 years? These Capital One cafes, man, it ain't just because people like coffee. This brick and mortar thing, it's going away. Young people want to do business on their phones. So it's challenging. You're not getting those face-to-face relationships like we used to. So you got to step up your game. I'm here to challenge you to think a little bit differently. Number 9, provide incredible customer experience. This is what it comes down to. Why? Because people want to feel like they're your only customer. And if you don't make them feel that way, I promise you, somebody else will. One of my favorite companies is Delta Airlines. I'm a million miler. I fly every week. My daughter became Delta's youngest ever diamond medallion at 13. We travel a lot, all 7 continents, and we love traveling. But we had a tight turn a couple years ago in Detroit. It was the dreaded pink tag flight, where your bag won't fit in the overhead. It's a regional plane, you know. We're in Detroit. We got to get from Terminal 1 to Terminal 2. It's 19 minutes. I'm going to miss my flight. I'm going to miss my gig. I'm freaking out. And Juanita from Delta comes up the stairs, you know, right by where you walk into the plane. They got the little area there. You drop off the luggage. She said, "Are you the Bernstein family?" "Yes." "Come with me." So we walked down the stairs, down to the runway. She had a Porsche Cayenne SUV waiting for us. Our bags loaded in, some goodie bags, some really good treats. She said, "Hey, Bernstein family, we appreciate your business. Had a tight turn. We thought we'd help you out." And she drove us across the runway over to our next plane. The pilots came down, greeted us, thanked us, sat us down. Wow. Simple problem. Simple solution, but so creative. When I think of great service, I say WWGJD. What would Grandpa Joe do? That's Fairmont Furniture. My great-grandpa Joe started that furniture store back in 1939. I'll never forget the day I was in work and then a farm family came in, pretty down and out in their luck. They returned a bunch of old, used furniture to our store that they didn't even buy from our store. I said, Grandpa, why would we do that? And he said, because it's the right thing to do. We live in a small town. We take care of people, especially when they're down. And sure enough, people would drive all the way from Iowa and Wisconsin and South Dakota just to buy furniture from my family. It wasn't better furniture. It wasn't cheaper furniture. It was the same. But they wanted to do business with my grandpa because he always took care of people. He always under-promised and he over-delivered. And I never forgot that. So whenever I screw up, and I screw up all the time, I put down the phone, I put down the keyboard, I pick up the phone, and I call people. When they hear your sincere, authentic voice, apology, explanation, everything just becomes a lot better. But now people want to text and email and kick the can down the road. I don't know what WWGJD looks like to you, but for me, it just means picking up the phones, making sure that little problems don't turn into big problems. But that's the challenge. What does extraordinary experience look like in the coronavirus era? And lastly, I want you to think hard about your legacy. Why? You're not in the financial services business. You're in the legacy business. Thank you for what you do. It matters. It matters to you, your families, your customers, their families. I want to leave you with my hero, Herb Brooks. I'm very honored to be able to share his legacy. And you know, if you saw the Disney movie Miracle, Kurt Russell plays Herbie, the actor in the movie, and Herb died during the making of the movie. A lot of people don't know that. And they came to me, the producers of Disney, knowing that I was doing the book, and they said, hey, what can we use from your book that we can tie in, to the movie? And I remember Herb telling me a great line about legacy, saying the name on the front of the jersey was always more important than the name on the back of the jersey. It was always we and us, never I and me. And they used that line in the movie, which is really cool. But you know, Herb's favorite poet was a woman named Linda Ellis. Maybe you've heard of her, but she talks about the dash. Herbie loved that. So we've all got that number there in our tombstone, the year we were born. And that one comes quick. I lost my mom a couple months ago. It comes real quick, especially in the coronavirus era, right? So all you get between is that little line. I want to ask you about your line. Did you matter? Did you make a difference? Are you making a difference for your customers and thinking about their lines? You know, Herb had this acronym he used for every major decision he made in life. He called it QTL, quality time left. How much you got? Are you living a passionate, purposeful life, or are you pushing the rock up the hill? What is it that you want to be when you grow up? That's what today is all about. You know, I heard this old proverb and it changed the way I run my business. It goes like this: days and weeks and months drag on, but years fly by. If you got kids, you know what I'm talking about. You know that old saying, you're only as happy as your unhappiest kid. And that's why I'm all in, man. Trying to work hard so I can play hard, because life's about stages. My kid got old and went off to college. What? That's what life's all about. So it's about trying to enjoy the ride. You know, when I think of that iconic call in 1980, Al Michaels, maybe the most iconic sports call describing the greatest upset in American sports history, 1980, the Miracle on Ice. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. Well, I can't help but respectfully disagree. There were no divine interventions for Herbie. It was just about hard work, discipline, taking care of people, especially who Herbie called behind the scenes people. In his world, these were truck drivers, Zamboni drivers, trainers, equipment guys. If they were up till 2 a.m. after a weekend series, hanging equipment, they could always expect to find cold beer, hot pizza, and a personal handwritten note from Herbie, like a Willy Wonka golden ticket. Thanks, guys. I couldn't do it without you. And you know what? There's a whole team behind you too. Writing papers, pushing forms, assisting you, aiding you. Take care of them, treat them right. And lastly, wait, what? A bonus, number 11? That's right. Grandpa Jay always said, under promise, over deliver. Number 11, have fun. Why? Because we like to do business and be led by fun, funny, passionate, positive, nourishing people. And I know it's cliche, but it's true. Age, it truly is just a number. You gotta have fun. That's what life's all about. Like my buddy Julia the Hurricane Hawkins. She's 105 years old. She's a competitive runner in Louisiana. And guess what? She wins every race she competes in. You know why? There's nobody else in her age group. How great is that? Look, being a champion, it's a choice. It's your choice. And just like Kirby Puckett, every morning when you walk through those stage doors, you get to decide what your attitude is going to be. Positive, amazing, smiling, or negative and toxic. But remember, winning just for the sake of winning, it's fleeting, it's hollow, it's not sustainable. There's a fine line between cheating and gamesmanship in sports, in business, in life. Follow your line, your moral compass, your true north. You're going to be tempted to take shortcuts along the way, but don't. Don't end up like Lance and Bernie from hero to zero on my wall of shame. Remember, individuals win games, but it takes a team to win a championship. And it's been my honor to be a member of the NAIFA team today. Brendan Burnett, Elena Faiello, thank you so much. That's it. I guess I'm out of here. We're going to take some questions. Thank you so much.